Hello and welcome to the Food Connections podcast, the podcast that helps you learn more about the food you eat and connect with those who make it. I'm Dr. Laura Winus, a registered nutritionist specialising in nutrition research and communication. I'm also delighted to be one of Scotland's 25 regional food tourism ambassadors. In this episode, I'm joined by John Sinclair from Craigie's farm. It's an amazing place to be just outside Edinburgh. John is really keen to help people learn more about the food they eat and how it's grown, and so is an ideal guest to have on this podcast. There's plenty for visitors to see and do at the farm, and the focus is very much on helping connect people with that field to fork journey. I had a chat with John one morning around the middle of May to get an insight on all the things going on at Craigie's farm. Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by John Sinclair. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thanks, Laura. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Can you give us a little introduction to Craigie's farm?
Yeah, Craigie's farm is a diversified farm that's just right in the outskirts of Edinburgh. So we're actually just 20 minutes to the centre of Edinburgh. We're out in the middle of the countryside, kind of very much focused on producing and selling food direct to the customer and really just kind of shortening that food chain.
Brilliant. Easy to get to.
Yeah, we're the west side, so just about a mile off the main A90 road. But yeah, although we're so close to Edinburgh, we're out in beautiful countryside and got lovely views.
Yeah, I can see the polytunnels from the road. Yeah, a good spot.
Yeah, no, we're pretty lucky with the spot that we've got, so that's a good starting point.
And what can people kind of expect to see when they visit Craigie's farm?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're kind of got a lot of different strands to the business. So, there's a farm, shop and cafe. It's got fantastic views over Edinburgh and the Forth, and also over the fields of where most of the produce is coming from. So, not only can they sample the produce, they can see the fields it's grown in. And then, within the shop, we've got a butchery counter, deli counter, got our own in-house bakery. So, lots of things happening in the shop and cafe. And then we're really well known for soft fruit. So all the fruit we grow is sold pick your own. So July, August, going into September, we've got lots of different sort of fruits that customers can come in and pick and take away for making jam or filling their freezers. And then most recently, we've added on a large sort of indoor play area. It's got its own cafe and animal viewing area as well, where the kids and families can go and see the animals and learn a bit about how they're, what their use is on UK farms.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. No, I was in a few months ago, had a really nice lunch there with the frittata. I think it was vegetable frittata I had overlooking the fields of vegetables outside. So it was very nice. So how many visitors do you have each year? Is it quite a lot?
Yeah, we're just under 300,000 visitors come up to Craigie's each year. So we're kind of probably about 50% sort of elderly retired professionals from Edinburgh. And then the other 50% will be families with younger kids. So these are kind of our two kind of target audiences.
Mm-hmm. I guess you need a lot of staff to kind of do all the jobs around the farm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose when we started off, when I started off farming, we just had a staff of, a couple on the farm, whereas now, the payroll's sitting around about 70, at peak sort of 80, 85 during the summer months. Yeah, I don't enjoy the end of the month when I'm doing the payroll, but it's really nice having people on the farm because that's kind of really been lost in the last a few generations. Farms can be very lonely places. So, not all the staff are working on the farm. The majority are working in the shop, the cafe, the bakery, and all these different areas.
Mm-hmm. Quite a community of people keeping the cogs working. Yeah,
no, and I think it's something that I really enjoy, that sort of community kind of, and just sort of seeing. We take on young school kids, that start off clearing tables, and then seeing individuals develop up through the ranks gives real satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. So what's your background? Because I understand you're from a farming background originally, but maybe not quite the way that you're farming at the moment. So do you want to kind of explain what your story
Well,
is?
yeah, I probably struggle to call myself a farmer these days, but I'm sort of fifth generation farming on Domini Estate. So my great grandfather and grandfather were both farm managers on the estate, and then my father got the chance of a tenancy on one of the farms, and he started off milking cows and retailing the milk directly to consumers at the west side of Edinburgh. But then when pasteurisation laws were introduced in the 1970s, Lord Rosebery wouldn't allow him to put a pasteurisation plant in because it was seen as being a non-agricultural operation. So he decided to come out of dairying altogether because he didn't really see there was a future in producing a commodity that was going away to get packed, and there was too many people involved and that had to get their cut from the product. So in the late 80s, he planted the first of the soft fruit, and really from there, everything else has kind of developed and grown. So we've seen more people coming onto the farm. We've seen opportunities and taken advantage of them.
Mm-hmm. You've gradually kind of expanded as the years have gone on with more and more produce.
Yeah, that's right. And when I left college, I had no interest in speaking to the public and customers. So I was I started up a contracting business, doing a lot of work around about potatoes. But then my father passed away in 1995. So at that point, I had to kind of make a decision that I couldn't really do both, and saw more opportunities on the retail and diversification side of things than I did in doing contracting. So that was a big turning point where we then started focusing on development at Craigie's.
And talking about diversification, you grow a huge diversity of vegetables and fruit. So do you know how many different types of vegetables you have?
Oh yeah, I did count it up one time. I think it's it's probably about over 50 anyway, especially if you count the different varieties. So yeah, we grow. It's kind of that. There's that saying, "Jack of all trades, master of none," and probably a lot of professional veg farmers will be kind of looking at us or looking at some of the produce we grow and sort of thinking, what are they doing? But we do go for the scatter approach, and we plant lots of different varieties and crops just to try and get a spread, because we're not looking to fill a truckload with cauliflowers. We're looking just to have a good consistent supply that we can keep the front of the shop stocked up. We've also seen, because we've got a lot of customers on the farm picking fruit, that them sort of wanted to pick vegetables as well. And I know I had a farm manager who was very protective over those vegetables, and it took quite a bit of persuading to sort of say, well, actually, why not? If the customer wants to pick their own cabbage or cauliflower, then let them carry on. And it's all part of the experience of coming out to Craigie's, and it's kind of what we're about.
So what happens to the veg that you grow? Is it mainly you use it or sell it in your own shop, or allow people to pick it themselves, or sell kind of quite locally?
Yeah, the majority of the veg that we grow will be sold in the shop, and if it doesn't sell or if it gets past its best, then we'll use it in the kitchen for making soups or vegetables with dishes. Although we are seeing more and more customers wanting to pick their own. I would say it's probably soft fruit. We're probably about 90% pick your own, 10% ready picked, whereas the vegetables are probably the other way around. That's if you take pumpkins out of the equation, of course.
Yeah, the pumpkins. Would you say, is that the most popular vegetable then?
The pumpkins is definitely the most popular vegetable, but I suppose, unfortunately, I would guess that the majority of the pumpkins we grow probably never get eaten, which doesn't sit that well with me. But sometimes you've just got to kind of grasp the opportunities and take advantage of it. But we do try and educate customers that when they are scooping out the flesh from a pumpkin, that actually it's dead easy to make it into a soup or make a pumpkin pie or something like that. So that's something that we're really try to be strong on is trying to kind of introduce that kind of educational part as well.
Mm-hmm. You do quite a lot with schools and young people, I understand. So do you have quite a few school visits to Craigie's farm?
Yeah, we do. Not over the last couple of years, just with COVID, but we're looking forward to kind of getting back into school visits again. As things kind of get a bit easier. But yeah, school visits is something that I'm sort of quite passionate about. I think a lot of the problems that farmers face is the fact that people don't understand how their food's produced. If you go back sort of 30 odd years ago, there was a lot of labour required on farms, a lot of hand picking of fruit and veg and potatoes, whereas mechanisation's really come in the last sort of 30 years. So that requirement for hands-on labour has disappeared. And if you go back to the days when potatoes harvested by hand, most people in the country would have had a connection to the land, whether it even be an aunt or an uncle that used to go and help the potato harvest or the berry harvest. So there was that kind of basic understanding of how food was produced, whereas that's been lost through mechanisation. I don't think it's a bad thing, because picking potatoes by hand is really back-breaking work and something that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. Farmers have got a real challenge at the moment, just to kind of get the message across and on how food is produced and why people should be supporting local producers.
So do you find when you're talking to young kids that they're actually interested in finding out more about the fruits and vegetables or how to use them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all lead very busy lifestyles, and convenience is king in modern day living. And we find that a lot of kids that come to us, they've not had the kind of basic cooking skills that that we might have enjoyed when we were younger. And the simplicity of taking raw ingredients direct from the ground, and then even just taking carrots and chopping them up and boiling them and adding a bit of butter. It's you see kids' faces when they get involved in that process and then actually get to taste the difference. It's a great way to get kids to eat a sort of a healthier diet. And there's a lot of kind of bad press as well about food being unhealthy, and food causes more risk to us by eating too much of it and eating the wrong produce through obesity. Whereas a good balanced diet with fruit and veg is really important. I think it's really important that we teach our kids that and let them enjoy the fun of producing the food as much as the enjoyment of eating it.
Yeah, absolutely. And variety is key, and getting youngsters interested in food is so important, I think, to establish those healthy eating behaviours. We know from statistics, or the data shows, that a third of adults and 12% of teenagers actually achieve the 5 a day fruit and veg. So we've quite a long way to go in terms of encouraging people to eat more fruits and vegetables, and that variety as well, because 50% of the UK's vegetable intake is made up of just 4 types of vegetables. So peas, onions, carrots and tomatoes, which tomatoes, I know it's technically a fruit, I believe, but we kind of eat it as a vegetable. So we kind of stick to what we know almost. But from a nutritional point of view, we know that variety is key. So the more variety of fruits and vegetables, the better for your gut microbiome and overall health. So as you're saying, there's huge variety of produce there on Craigie's farm. So I'm sure you've got a good gut microbiome yourself.
That's it. Yeah, it's just it's basic skills like teaching our kids on how to make a pot of soup. Really quick, easy to make, great way of kind of cutting down food wastage, and it's a nice, simple, nutritious meal. Simple skills like that can go a long way.
And you've also got animals on the farm, so they're lovely for kids to see. When I was there, you had some lambs, which was very cute, even for adults as well to see. But yeah, do you have a kind of a selection of animals then?
Yeah, I mean, we're not a livestock farm. We have added various animals as the years have gone by. My son is really keen on livestock, so he's actually come home from college and got a small flock of sheep that he lambs and for customers to see, and he's got a few pigs that come through their pork comes through the cafe. So yeah, we do have some animals, and I think it's quite an important part again of what we do. We're able to kind of showcase animals in sort of environments of where commercially farmed livestock would be, how meat's produced on a larger scale. So it's quite useful to be able to kind of introduce that, and when we've got school kids out or members of the public visiting us, we can try and get that message across of how their meat is produced.
Yeah, it's important to have a mixed farm, I suppose, for the whole cycle. It all works in combination. Mm-hmm. And you've also got a nature trail as well for people who want to, maybe after they've had a nice lunch in the cafe, to wander around. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the Edinburgh Greenbelt Trust a number of years ago, we did quite a lot of work with them and got quite a lot of funding for hedging and diking and stuff like that. So they wanted to kind of leave a bit of a legacy. So they got a nature trail designed and put in. So it's basically a series of 9 posts with brass rubbings at each point, and it's kind of like it's called the Nature Detective Trail. So the kids, when they're going around, they've got to try and gather the clues to guess what the brass rubbing is going to be at the next post. So that's really popular as well. And it's a great opportunity just to kind of get the message over that farmers work with nature for growing their produce and crops. I think we do have a really bad name that we kind of go on and we kind of recreationally spread fertilizer and chemicals just for pesticides, just for the fun of it. Whereas that couldn't be further from the truth. It's very much about trying to work with the environment round about us as much as we can, and using these powerful levers to keep pests at bay, using biodiversity.
I suppose consumers are really interested in the seasonality of foods as well, and I guess there's busier times of the year for you for sowing and planting or harvesting different crops. So what's the busiest time of year for you with what you grow?
Yeah, I suppose on the farm just now is probably a really busy time, because we've got a lot of planting going on, and just trying to prepare the farm for the summer period, and make sure we've got a good range of crops, and also that where we've got a lot of customers coming onto the farm, that it's a safe place for customers to be. So operationally now is probably our peak season. But then when we get to July, we've probably got between 1,000 and 1,500 customers coming onto the farm every day. That gets really busy. But by that time, most of the team will be pretty well up to speed and know what they're doing and processes, and all the planning will have kicked into operation, and generally speaking, touch wood, things run pretty smoothly through the summertime.
And of course, summertime is peak time for, as I say, pick your own berries. What's the first berry? Is it strawberries coming to season first?
Yeah, strawberries will be the first fruit. When you see the first of the Scottish strawberries hitting the supermarket shelves in kind of February, March time, from heated tunnels, where the phone sort of starts to ring and doesn't really stop. But we don't aim to have super early fruit. We're kind of aiming for more of the traditional fruit season. So we're looking to kind of start mid-June, and then you're looking to have things really kicking off in July when the school holidays start. And
I take it, are you involved in the fruit picking as well, or?
Just for the sampling, just to make sure that the quality is right. It's an important part of the job.
Quality control.
Quality control, yeah. Just like I have to have the first coffee in the morning, it's just as important to make sure that the fruit tastes good. Although the team will be probably at their busiest in July, just as I was saying, if everything's well organised beforehand, then it's actually a time of year where things should be quite quiet for me. It's quite a nice time of year for me, just to kind of let the team do what they're good at.
Mm-hmm. And I know summer is, obviously people think about berries being in season in summer, but what's the in-season vegetables in summer? Is there any good vegetables to come and pick in summertime?
Yeah, I mean, lettuce is something that you'll probably got the longest season. We plant quite a lot of lettuces in the polytunnels, and they're quite fast growing. So salad leaves and lettuce And then carrots, pea pods. Peas are quite a short season, but people go daft for pea pods. There's probably nothing nicer than peas just at the just at the peak of sweetness. And then spring cabbage kind of leads into kind of cauliflowers, cabbage, carrots. So there's a couple of months where things are quite sparse. So May and June. But then once we get into July, then the shelves are quite the largest, kind of quite bountiful and kind of well filled with good produce.
Because we talk about the hunger gap. Is that kind of in Scotland? That's when there's the least amount of fresh produce around.
Yes. So kind of March, April, May, June are the kind of the sort of most challenging months when there's probably the least amount of choice, but we're able to kind of bridge it not too badly.
And so what's a kind of typical day for you like, or is there any such thing as a typical day? Or
well, I'm generally kind of in the office most days, so generally here first thing, got to sample that first coffee, important part of my job. And then you'll have regular meetings with my general manager and management team. So it's like to keep in touch with what their plans are and what they're doing, and just give them any help and advice if required. I'm also quite involved with the Royal Highland Agricultural Society, currently sitting the exec and executive committee, and I'm the treasurer, so that takes up quite a bit of time, but it's really enjoyable, and meet a lot of really good people, and I quite enjoy the work I do at the Royal Highland Society. And then quite often, a couple of times a week, I'll sneak away and get a bit of golf therapy as well, which is I think really important.
Yeah, it's good to have a mixture of things in life, and balance of work and play, I suppose.
That's it, yeah.
And do you have a favourite food? I know you've got a huge selection of fruits and vegetables to choose from, but is there any favourite dish that you've got, or a favourite fruit or veg? Yeah,
I mean, to me, I think your food should be as the just the sort of the flavours of the fresh fruit and veg is really important, and that's what it's all about. You don't really want to be doing too much to it. I mean, I think the most satisfying time of year would be getting to taste the first strawberry of the season. Unlike a lot of people now, your strawberries are available in the supermarket shelves all through the year. I won't buy imported fruit, or especially strawberries and raspberries, because I'd rather eat a turnip than some of the fruit that you get during the winter months. So I think tasting that first strawberry of the season, a bit of cream is really nice. I do get sick of strawberries quite quickly, so I quite quickly move on to raspberries, and I could probably eat raspberries till I burst. And I suppose in vegetables, I mean, it's still your childhood memories or younger day memories when we used to grow a lot of potatoes, is going into the field and digging a shaw of potatoes, and taking them straight into the house and boiling them and having them with butter and oatmeal. I think that the first potatoes of the season are just about as good as the first strawberries of the season.
Good comfort food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what variety of potatoes do you grow?
We don't grow any potatoes ourselves anymore. We contract farm the ground, so the farmer that contracts the ground will grow potatoes on the farm in a rotation. So it's mainly Maris Piper, Saxon, the sort of two main varieties that he grows.
And is that good all-round varieties? I know Maris Piper, that's a good all-rounder, isn't it?
Yeah,
not heard of Saxon before. But
yeah, Saxon's a kind of like a cousin of the Maris Piper, so it's very similar, probably better for boiling than Maris Piper. But you can't go wrong with a good Maris Piper.
Well, thank you so much for your insight, and it's been great to hear about everything that you're doing at Craigie's farm. It sounds a great place to find out more about the produce that we eat, and certainly pick your own fruit and vegetables. So I appreciate your time this morning.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Laura, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to this Food Connections podcast. Do check out the show notes for more information related to this episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please tell others about it and do get in contact with me if you have any comments or suggestions for future guests. See you next time.